Today's AskReddit post. People whose marriages lasted less than a year, months, weeks, days, or even hours. When did you realize you'd made a mistake and why? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. 2 months and he told me I was too fat and will no longer be having sex with me. I lost 75 pounds in 3 months by doing it the wrong way, and he told me he was already seeing someone else. He seemed surprised my parents would no longer pay his bills and was kicked off their property 30 days later, per laws of my state. The bastard probably thought he could break you and have you as the obedient wife at home while getting his ducks on the side. I can hardly imagine you managed to gain 75 pounds in the 2 months you were married, so he most likely had some malicious plan. You hit the nail on the head. He was messing with me. The other partner was the same size as me before I lost the weight. He had a clear type and bigger women were it. He wanted a wife under his thumb and ladies on the side. People who do shit like that are psychopaths. I hope you're doing better now. I am. Thank you for checking on me. I was freshly 18 when this relationship started. He was older. I did not see the red flags, and he courted me based on my lack of experience. Plus, my parents being well off in the 2008 recession was incredibly appealing after he lost his great job and had to work a crap retail job. I am now 30 and really happy. Not my story, but a fraternity brother of my husband had a marriage that lasted maybe 100 days before they split. Apparently she didn't internalize that marrying a military person would mean moving around, and he just assumed she knew and was good with it. TLDR. Communicate. It is downright bizarre how many couples don't talk about important stuff. I'm a lawyer and it's really frustrating to me that people don't realize that marriage is, at its core, a contractual relationship. Imagine signing a contract with a business partner without ever discussing anything about your partnership. It's insanity. It's amazing how many people get married without knowing what marriage means to their partners. Both are happy thinking they're getting what they think marriage is, and then are surprised when that's not what's happening. My wife and I did standard marriage counseling with like 4 other couples. We were bored most of the time, but we were entertained by how little the other couples had seemed to discuss finances, where to live, etc. Not me but a friend. Their marriage didn't last through the reception. Groom got absolutely shit-faced drunk and slaps the bride's child from a previous relationship and then hits the bride in the face. She filed for an annulment the next morning. Edit. Just wanted to update on the fallout a little since this comment has a lot of traction. Groom was a truck driver, long and short haul, so he and the bride didn't spend a ton of time together over their relationship, so I guess she didn't know he was like that. The actual assault happened behind closed doors and was kept pretty hush-hush until the next morning to save face. I don't know enough about marriage law to comment on the legality of their marriage, but I was told she would be filing for an annulment, so that's what I wrote. This all happened about 10 years ago and I'm no longer in contact with the bride, but last I heard she was doing better and had moved on. The groom had racked up several thousands of dollars in debt in the bride's name during the relationship that wasn't discovered until things started falling apart. I think he's in jail now. Lucille Bluth voice, good for her. How much could an annulment cost? $10? Go see a Star Wars. I can only afford one Star Wars. 4 months and he dislocated my jaw. But really what I want to share is the signs were there and people should be aware of them. First it was just grabbing my arm kind of hard, then grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise it, then pushing, then slapping. It took years, so escalate. I heard it gets worse. I didn't think too much of it. I thought I am not a wimp and it isn't like he's beating the shit out of me every day. I thought that's what domestic abuse looked like. Then I married him. Well, let me tell you, if they're grabbing, pushing, or hitting you, they will eventually hurt you worse. I'm so sorry you had that experience. Thank you for sharing. I'm so glad you're doing better now. Thank you. I am happily married now and have a wonderful life. I'm so glad. You deserve it. I had a friend who married one of the most horrible people I've ever met. So charming at first, but within the first 3 months of them being together, we all started to notice a few things and we decided none of us liked him. One day we saw hand-shaped bruises on her arms, and literally the next day they were at the courthouse getting married. We had a small gathering shortly after, which he ended up turning into their wedding celebration. Bachelor party, whatever he could to make it all about him. He got extremely drunk, and basically tried to kill her in front of all of us. She told us they didn't have their rings yet, but they would get them soon. And he walked over to her and started strangling her for embarrassing him. She ended up breaking down and realizing that for the entire 4 months of their relationship and 9 days of their marriage, he had progressively gotten more and more abusive, and she made a mistake. Very glad she left. Strangulation in an abusive relationship is the #1 indicator of murder, as in, the chances of him eventually killing her over 95%. I had an abusive ex in high school. The final straw was when he tried strangling me in my mother's living room after school and then gagged me afterwards so I'd stop screaming for help. It only lasted a year and we were very young, but I thank God every day I got away from that, because there's no doubt my life would look so different had I stayed. You ever look them up to see if they're still a psycho? Those kinds of things always intrigue me. Like, what path of destruction hath they wrought? You know, I just feel for the poor people that had the unfortunate luck to cross his path. One of the particularly scary and frustrating parts is that most are pretty charming and normal on the surface. That's how they rope partners in. Then they can unleash all that wrath bubbling just underneath onto this one person. So to everyone else they seem fine. Unless they eventually kill their partner, you're not likely to hear many ill words. My abuser is living a very normal looking life on social media. You'd never know I have a restraining order against them. I supported us working full-time with a 1-hour commute each way via Vanpool. She complained about having to pick me up at the Vanpool stop after work because it was happy hour at the bars. She also seemed to have trouble keeping other guys' dicks out of her pussy. To be honest, I didn't really want to be married to her. However, she was determined to get married by age 24 regardless, and at the time I had significant difficulties saying no. I was working 60+ odd hours a week in a kitchen to help pay for everything, and I was struggling with my mental health at the time, and we grew further and further apart emotionally. I found out less than 5 months into the marriage that she had been unfaithful to me for at least a year. So 6-7 months before the wedding. Whilst she had been planning it, she had been sleeping with other people. Whilst she had been putting serious pressure on me to provide for her dream wedding, she had also had an abortion because she didn't know whether I would have been the father or not. When I found this all out, I basically had a breakdown and tried taking my own life. I also spent a few years after this blaming myself for the breakdown of my marriage and her behavior. Sorry to hear that, man. Hope you've uplifted yourself since. Definitely, mate. Life's a lot better these days. That's great to hear, man. Glad you're doing better. When my former buddy called me to tell me he got herpes from my wife, I was in Afghanistan. Edit. I did not contract it. My buddy called to warn me. Edit 2. That was years ago. I'm retired now and remarried happily to an amazing woman that somehow tolerates me. Edit 3. I am thankful he told me. Seems kinda chaotic neutral. Damn. Your best friend bangs your girl but catches herpes and is a bro enough to know it wasn't a one-time thing and let you know. That's a lot of complicated emotions. Cliffs. My new wife changed the second I said I do. She instantly became controlling, manipulative, and would lie about anything to get her way, and double down when caught. The marriage lasted about 10 months. Before we got married, she was considerate, kind, and sweet. Apparently all for show. This is my dad in a nutshell. He is on divorce number 4 now. Every time I have seen he is the perfect boyfriend. Opens doors, buys nice things, keeps his appearance up, goes out to eat with them, never swears. Basically a great act he can keep up for a year or more. Second he gets married, he completely stops buying anything that isn't fishing equipment. Grabs his old ratty clothing from college. He is 60 now. Starts drinking and swearing like a sailor. And completely stops cooking and cleaning. His last 3 wives were all super confused with what happened, but the short answer is he is a child. When he is dating, he is a salesman trying to close a deal. When he gets married, suddenly he has a new mother to take care of everything for him so he can duck off. That just sounds like an exhausting way to live. Why doesn't he just split the difference and be slightly nice at all times? If forward thinking was his strong suit, he wouldn't be where he is. Yeah, my method probably takes a modicum of introspection. The guy I married went instantly from being fun and adventurous to an absolute psycho. He stopped using my name and would just call me wife even after I asked him to stop. He started insisting that I didn't need other friends, and aren't you done with that, when I would want to meet up with people. If I hung out with a guy, then I was cheating in his mind. I caught him going through my phone to find proof there was none. There were 2 incidents that led to the bitter end. I caught him calling me a dirty whore and jerking off over me while I slept, face with open mouth and cold sweat. And then at a concert he freaked out and had to be dragged off of me because I talked to an old male acquaintance for 5 minutes. That one left bruises. And I left him. Fuckhead. I'm glad you got away. Same thing happened to me with my ex-husband. 10 years later, he remarried. And guess who called me out of the blue? His new wife. I don't even live in the same state as them anymore and have never met this woman in real life. He literally did the exact same thing to her, was seemingly normal, and right after they got married he went nuts. I ended up talking on the phone with her for like 4 hours. I hope she got away or figured it out. I hated getting that call for many reasons, but in a way it was cathartic because I couldn't figure out how he changed so drastically. I kind of blamed myself. I think some people just think marriage means that's it. You own that person and they can't get away. Nope. Sorry. My biological father was a real abusive pile of shit. To all of us. But mom got it the worst. He really beat the shit out of her regularly, on top of controlling everything she did. Then he started an affair with a lady from our church, and not long after, mom finally got the balls to leave him. The church split emotionally, then half of them believed my mom, half believed him. His new woman told everyone how he was such a good man and my mom just wasn't supporting him like a wife should. We left the church. Years later, we ran into an old church friend of my mom's, and she told us that a year into that whole debacle, my father stopped going to church, and his new woman came in one day sobbing and told everyone my mom was right. Quote, "I've never seen an evil like that in any man. Mom and her never became friends or anything, but they did connect briefly just so talk and heal. I'm really glad your mom was able to get away from him. I'm so sorry your family had to go through all that. Your mom should be proud of herself for following her instincts and her heart. It's hard to do. I hope you and your family have been able to emotionally heal from that. At least a little. I know it is a lot to deal with. Thanks for sharing your story. It helps to know about other women who were brave too. Yellow heart." My sister's marriage lasted about 40 days. She found out he was a pedophile when my other sister came forward that he'd been raping her for the last 4 months. When he was arrested, police found a video of me getting dressed on his phone. I thank God every day that she came forward when she did, because he was grooming me to be his next victim. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison and has no contact orders with everyone in my immediate family. This event was the end of my childhood. Vile. Hope you are doing better now. Mine lasted less than a year. He was an incredibly abusive duckhead that burdened me with tons of shit we couldn't afford, then refused to work his damn self. So I used to pull 16 hours days back to back to back. Turns out instead of working and helping me take care of the house, he was out cheating. In all reality, he was the one who left me, but once I got out of the situation I realized how awful it was and didn't go back. Damn, what an asshole. I hope you'll never have to deal with that crap ever again. Mine lasted 2 years. I know over the year limit for the post. The last 6 months of the marriage I deployed to Iraq. I was a happier person while being deployed than I was living at home. That's when I realized I had a toxic home life. I was sacrificing my own happiness to do everything I could to keep my ex happy and just thought that's how it's supposed to be. I didn't want to come home from deployment because I knew I would be miserable. I moved out a month after I got back and life has been much better since. Currently in Afghanistan and cannot wait to get home. Oh wow. You know you done ducked up when you'd rather be in a war zone than at home. Take care of yourself out there, mate. Just a different kind of war zone. The one at home is an emotional war zone. And nobody trains you how to survive in that one. You can't dig a foxhole to hide your feelings in. Well, you can. But you'll get emotional trench foot. My brother experienced this. He had a cop wedding, on the beach, in flip-flops, everyone drunk as shit. And part of the joke of the wedding was that when the officiant asked if anyone had any objections, everyone had an objection. They yelled drunken terrible shit at the two of them for a good 2 or 3 minutes before he yelled something back like, "Fuck it and duck all of you. I'm marrying this woman regardless." It was crazy cringe to witness. But he told me after, "You know, I had half a mind to call it off right then as I listened to what they were saying and realized everyone was probably right. I barely understand any of this. What is a cop wedding? Did they divorce in less than a year? The drunk people were shouting things that were true. My brother married a lady cop. 90% of those in attendance were other cops. It was just a ceremony though. I'm sure they got legally married either shortly before or shortly after what we all witnessed. Yep, 6 months I think. Oh, so you mean her drunk co-workers started telling true stories about horrible things she was doing as a police officer? Whoa, cringing now. Thanks. Not me, but I worked at a company where 2 employees were engaged. After they married, she sent out an all users email advising her name change and then almost exactly a year later sent another one changing it back. Apparently right up to the wedding she was seeing someone else. It seems that both her and her fiance knew it was a mistake, but it was one of those enormous weddings and her father was paying out a shitload of money. They were even having dance lessons for when the bride and groom have the first dance. That kind of deal. The whole thing was like a super tanker that couldn't be stopped, so they had their day and split up soon after. Why bother with changing your name then? It's a pain in the ass that involves multiple government agencies. Especially as she knew it wasn't going to be long term. I had some friends that got married and divorced within a year. It turns out she had major doubts but went through with it anyway. Then cried for the whole honeymoon and told him she had made a huge mistake. They posted all these normal pictures of them looking happy in Hawaii. But it came out later what a miserable nightmare the trip was. That's why social media pics are usually a lie. Also pretty easy to see how this could feed others' insecurities. Whoa, I never saw those two as a great couple. But look at how happy they are in these photos. I wonder why I can't be that happy if my relationship seems like it's better than theirs. I'm not surprised as science says social media is generally bad for us. Not me, but a family member. She was married after a quick relationship. His family had money, and I think she wanted a nice life. A few months later, she was in a horrific car crash which killed 9-year-old sister, their grandmother, and left her with severe injuries, shattered 3/4 of her face, and she may have broken a hip, and her back too if memory serves. She was in a medically induced coma when her sister's funeral occurred, less than a month or 2 after she gets out of the hospital. Her husband, married about 6 months at this point, says to her, "You need to get over the accident." Edit. I should mention that the money her husband's family had was small town money. Thousands, not millions. Yo, what the duck, what kind of a psycho. My story is closely related. Even if we weren't officially married, I was planning a wedding with my ex-fiancée. I did most of the planning. I work as a nurse, and my father was dying of cancer on the other side of the USA. Between work, PTO taken to care for him, I wasn't in the house much for a few months as my dad had taken a turn for the worst. Found out that she had been ducking her ex-boyfriend both when I was working night shift and when I was in Cali caring for my dying dad. Broke it off 2 months before the wedding and lost a lot of money in the process. I still can't believe that evil witch cheated on me while my dad was dying. That really sucks, and I'm sorry you lost your dad and dealt with her as well. On a bright side, you lost less in the cancelled plans than in a lifetime of misery or a costly divorce. Hopefully you have found happiness since then, whether or not you found a new partner. The younger sister of my then best friend married a lazy asshole insisting that she could fix him. Spoiler alert, she couldn't. I once heard an aphorism about that mindset. Not applicable to everyone obviously. A woman marries a man thinking she'll change him. A man marries a woman thinking she'll stay the same. There's one more line in the version I heard. They're both wrong. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.